We're about ready to start our program this evening. I think we all were saddened by the news of the death of Robert Tate. The Tates have been a family well known and long remembered in this community. And so I think it would be appropriate at this time to all of us just to pause for about 5 seconds and have a 5 or 6 seconds pause of meditation for the Tate family, remembering them in their moment of grief. Thank you very much. Because of what took place here, we do not have our president, Irving Tate, with us this evening. And our vice president, Darrell Stinson, called me today, and he said, Eddie, he said, I've got a problem. I'm coming down with the flu. He said, I'm going to the doctor, and I don't think I can be here this evening. He said, would you please take over for me this evening? Now, Darrell Stinson's shoes are pretty hard to fill. Now, I'm a little taller model than Darrell, but you just have to put up with me here, and we're going to try to get through this as easy as we can this evening. Also, J.B. Sullins, who was going to give our welcome, cannot be with us this evening. So I guess I'll fill in and give you a welcome. And I just do want to, at this time, I want to take the opportunity to welcome each and every one of you to the 36th annual Oakwood Former Student and Alumni Banquet. I happen to remember when this banquet started because it was the very year that I graduated from high school here in 1953. That was the first Former Student Alumni Banquet that we had. And so it's been held every year since then, and it's been held traditionally on the night before Easter, this weekend. And so at this time, I do know that we have many people here who have been here many times before. We always have a few people who do not attend maybe regularly, and hopefully we have a few here that are here for the first time this evening. And if you are here for the first time, we do want to especially welcome you. We want you to get acquainted. Now, that's one thing I can always say about the Oakwood community. It was very easy to get acquainted with these people. And I think we're going to have a song here after a while that sort of expresses my opinion about the people of community, of Oakwood community. And Betty Lance will be helping that, and I guess I'll get to lead the singing on that. And it's entitled Dear Hearts and Gentle People. And I think if you have a song to describe the people of Oakwood, Oklahoma, or Oakwood, America, as I call it, that would be the song right there, because we do have a lot of dear hearts and gentle people that have come from this community. Again, I want to welcome you. I want you to enjoy the evening. I know that, we have a lot of graduates here from about the early 50s this evening for some reason. I don't know whether they all got together and conspired to show up, and I couldn't help but to mention as we came in, some of you might remember a junior play that was put on by the class of 51. The Campbells Are Coming. Marilyn, do you remember that play?
Oh, yes!
I thought you might. You didn't happen to be in that play, did you?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember what character you played?
Oh, no.
Well, I guess we'll have to stop there, because that's where your memory sometimes doesn't quite hold up. But anyway, that play was such a success that they were asked, I believe, to perform that play. Was it at Southern? Is that right? At Southern? Okay, we've got a couple more of the class of 51 back there, Audrey and Billy. And was it as equally a success at Southern as it was in Oakwood?
Pretty good.
Pretty good, right? And I heard a familiar voice back there, out of the past, a voice that used to occasionally haunt me in the halls of Oakwood High School. If I didn't know better, that would sound like a guy called Pop Hort.
Yay!
Pop, would you stand up? There have been a couple of things I've been wanting to get straightened out for years. Thank you, Bill. Now, All seriously speaking, this is a man that I have very much admired in my life and probably had a lot to do with me getting into education. And I want to thank you personally right now because I tell you what, I'll have to admit, Pop, when I graduated in 1953, I said there was one thing I would not be any way in the world was a school teacher. And lo and behold, you eat those words, don't you? Now, if I remember right, did you come here in 1949?
Yes, sir.
See, I've got a pretty good memory too, still. And when did you leave here?
58.
In 1958. And so that, I think probably Pop Hort has been the longest superintendent tenure as far as Oakwood is concerned. Where do you live at now, Pop?
Laverne.
Okay, and what are you doing now? Fishing and hunting quite a bit?
Yeah, I just got a tree planting garden.
Got you planting his garden. Okay. And I tell you what, the one other thing I'll quickly mention here, we also had a senior trip in the year of 1953. We only had 5 seniors. We started out, Tommy, right, with 32 in the first grade. And we ended up with 5. And we went on the senior trip with Pop Hort in his car and Mom. There was Pop and Mom Hort, Maxine Marshall, Wayne Bowden, Eston Harper, Dick Spain, and myself, 7 of us in one car with all of our luggage. We had a great time. Now, there was only one problem on the trip. Now, if you start counting there's an odd number. There's 7 of us. So when we stayed at the hotel or motels, someone needed to sleep with Pop Hort. Now, Maxine slept with Mom Hort, and so the boys would flip coins to see who was going to be sleeping with Pop. And I think, if I remember right, I spent the night. We slept together in. It was Taos, New Mexico. We stopped over there, and we had a marvelous trip though. We went to El Paso and as far down as Juarez, Mexico. We ended up in Colorado Springs, that far north, and we had a very enjoyable vacation and senior trip. Pop, we are so happy to have you here again. You were here, I believe, last year too, and I didn't get to visit with you as much as I'd like to. But I just wanted to, I never told you this, that you really were the inspiration as far as me getting into education. Well, thank you so much. Let's give him a big hand.
I didn't tell you about the time I took him to doctored him up so he could get a broken arm fixed.
Well, I tried to dunk a basketball. You remember that?
Yeah, I got hooked on the rim, didn't you? Down you came.
Down I came. That was one of my more embarrassing moments at Oakwood High School, Pop. Almost as embarrassing as the time you slipped on some pieces of that Hard Rock candy right after Christmas, and I found out that Pop Hort's very fluent in German. We need to get on here. We could probably spend all night doing this, and we'd enjoy it, but we have other things to do. This evening, we have with us a young man, and I call him a young man because he's younger than me. And he is a graduate of Oakwood High School, and he's a gentleman that I've had a very close relationship and friendship with, Clyde Irving. And Clyde is going to be our speaker this evening. So Clyde, come on down, as they say on the Price is Right. It works.
It's always good to come to Oakwood. I was thinking about the banquet. I don't believe anybody gets as excited about coming to one as I do. I was afraid that I'd get down here too early, and here I was late. But Oakwood's an exciting place, and all of my heroes all of my life have been from Oakwood. You remember, Willie Nelson wrote a song that said, all my heroes are cowboys. Well, all my heroes came from Oakwood. And I think about the teachers just like Pop and Mom Hort. One time Mom Hort saved my life in the lunchroom, you know, because I was green and blue and purple and swallowed a fishbone. And I was always talking, chattering, and I got real quiet, so she knew something was wrong. And she pounced on me and beat my back and fed me crackers and saved my life. I've always been fond of her. And you know what? She looks just like she always did. Didn't she do good? She kept me good. I think about men like Bob Price. When I graduated from high school, went over to Oklahoma State University, entered the School of Agriculture. Named the School of Agriculture there. Came from over on Little Road Creek. Went to school at Little Road School and graduated from Oakwood. Dr. Robert Price, he's one of my heroes. I think about him every time I go through Oakwood. I think about others too, like Don Brown. We lost Don Brown to cancer, but I remember every time the Woodward livestock shows in session, all the times that Don and I were up there together. We used to show hogs up there in the horse barns, and the horse barns floors were made out of dirt. They're still there. And he had us working for the barn keeping award. We worked for every kind of award there was at that time. And some of the floors, we swept them out maybe a foot deep. We didn't win the award, but our part of the barn was clean. In fact, there's an agriculture teacher, Thomas, that patterns his total program after Don Brown, and all his walls are filled with plaques, just like Don had our walls filled with plaques. But tonight I'd like to talk about one teacher. I never had a bad teacher at Oakwood High School or grade school. Isn't that something? And she was special to me. I imagine when you think about your times at Oakwood, you think about some of the teachers. I know there have been a lot of good ones. J.B. Creech was a teacher here. He also was a teacher of my father-in-law. My father-in-law told me, he said, I spent so much time in his office that when I graduated, he broke down and cried. He said she wasn't going to miss me. But I was kind of an unruly first grader. I was full of vinegar. Made it through the first grade and went across the hall. And there was a lady I never had known before. I didn't know at the time that when I was born up here on the hill, she was there and she washed me up and cleaned me, and I was born at home. How many of you people were born at home? I want to see. Yeah, you put the hospitals out of business, didn't you? Yeah, that's great. It cost $15 to get me born. Doctor came 2 days later. But she was there. And she had a special feeling toward me. Now, she was a different kind of teacher. Her name was Mrs. Fruit. And every time I see a drill instructor on TV, I think about Mrs. Fruit. Because I was in the back of the room and I sort of cut a monkey shine, as my father would say, was cutting up and was way out of line. And all of a sudden the class got quiet. There wasn't a sound. Because all eyes were on Miss Fruit, and she started like this. She started her head just like this, real slow, and moved it this way. And something inside you just naturally went, Ted. And she wouldn't have any more trouble with you. She was a drill instructor, motivator. She cared about her kids in a special way. You remember she always took the tickets at the basketball games. Sit with Mrs. Willis up here in the hall. And I don't know why they ever worried about anybody sneaking in. Who could have ever snuck into a ball game and got past the watchful eye of Miss Willis and Miss Fruit? But she kept her eyes on it. She wanted you to win. You knew inside that she loved you. And because of her, she kind of straightened my life out a little bit, and I was a different person. And even though we've had lots of successful people from Oakwood, there's some of the rest of us. We've had successful people like Eddie Beck. Eddie Beck told me that when he broke his arm, dunking the basketball goal, he was always my hero. He could jump so high that they took him all the way to Clinton, to the hospital. Elk City. Can you imagine that? Said he found every bump in the road all the way down there.
Old 66, huh?
Old 66. And he could sing like a bird. I always knew that I would see someday, actually it wasn't TV in those days, but listen someday to Eddie Beck on the radio with the Grand Ole Opry. I see back in the corner Gail Keith Osapple. Did you know that Gail Keith Osapple was the same size he is today when he was in the 4th grade? That's right. I was talking to him before you know, I came up here and over here about where Robin Shaw was a good position to be in on the playground. This used to be the playground when we played Black Man. That's when they would have two bases. We'd run in between and tackle one another. And I always wanted to be bigger than Gail Keith. I was about half his size. He was the toughest and the best. And down off the hill he came and I laid for him. Got him by the legs. His old legs just spanned, you know, like wheels. And I can still remember the feeling, having skin places from my toes, my knees, my ribs hurt, cherries all over me, and turn around looking, there he was at the base. I finally got bigger than you, Gail Keith. Let's try again. But all my heroes have been from Oakwood. But to Miss Fruit, I'll just tell her this. I know she's not here tonight, and I haven't found her anyway if she's here. That some of us, who you counted so much on, we ain't through yet. From Oakwood High School, we still have some hills to climb, some goals to achieve, and a life to live. We still have some awards to bring the name of Oakwood High School. We ain't through yet. Now, if you said that in our class, what would happen to you? You'd go to the whiteboard, and you'd read, and you'd write, we ain't through yet, 716 times, wouldn't you? But Miss Ruth, we ain't through yet. Sometimes when we talk about outstanding people, we miss some of them. From Oakwood High School. I know, you know, it's just good to be in Oakwood Auditorium when you're not burying somebody. It seems like that we sure do have lots of folks go on. And that when we miss each and every one of them, it's good to be here. This young man went to class with me. A lot of people probably don't realize he was the most enjoyable person to go to school with. He always, I don't believe he ever had an enemy among the teachers or among his classmates. I was always jealous of him. Thought, you know, if I was going to be like somebody, I'd rather be like him. I met him over at Pleasant Valley Schoolhouse. That's way out northwest here where they had ice cream socials. And we met, listened to the men tell stories behind the big stove over there. And of course, you know, they had to block us out. There's one whole section room that is, don't get the wrong idea, that's where the mamas and the babies went, you know. We didn't get to go in there. Lester Don Rutz was my friend, and he always had a program. He always come up smelling like a rose, no matter what it is. In 1949, when we began school, well, we had a school bus that had an oil dip engine in it. A silver top. It was yellow with a silver top. Do you remember that? One of the Sullins boys drove it. That silver top was the air conditioner, because it reflected the heat. And down underneath the dash there was a canister that said heater and had a lever on it. And I watched that thing all year. And finally, me and Lester looked at it, inside it was empty. Yes, I sell cars, and like the old man come in one day, he said, that pickup got a heater in it? I said, no, it's got a place for one. You see, that bus just had a place for a heater. There was one there. There was a lot of comfort. You could breathe heater on it as you went to school, but it was cold, about 30 inches of snow, it seemed like, because it was packed up high. We were probably shorter in those days, so it seemed like the snow was deeper. I crawled on the school bus just after Lester Don. And I noticed it was frigid in there. But Lester Don wasn't in his usual place. Turned around and looked at the back of the bus, and there he was, between two beautiful high school girls, big brown eyes, turning. They was patting him on the head. They brought a blanket. So he came up smelling like a rose. We was both glad that there wasn't a heater in the bus. And he always had a program going. You know, in Oakwood, Oklahoma, you had to make your fun. You didn't have a lot of electronic games, TV in the old days, did we? Went over to Lester Don's place one day, and basketball he had didn't have any air in it. We didn't have any pumps, so we couldn't play basketball. I said, Lester Don, what are we going to do? He said, oh, I know what we're going to do. We'll do the feed program. What's that? He said, you had never seen it, have you? I said, no. He said, come out here to the barn. And there in a sack was great big cubes of cattle feed. First I ever saw them. I said, what are those for? He said, those are breeding. I said, Lester Don, you're kidding me. That looks like cow feed. Boy, he says, good. He picked one up and put his mouth and made the biggest smile and rolled his eyes. Then he ate another and another. And I ate one. Pretty soon we got in some cornmeal in there. We had a great time. That was Lester Don's feeding program. Lester Don was in Ventress Fruit's class with me, and I was jealous of him again because he got a chance to receive the big desk. Back in those days, they had 35 and 40 kids in a room. They used to put 2 grades in one room. I don't know why they did that. I think it's just to see if they could get them in there, kid. Not that we'd be good. Sit at the back, just like had a teacher's desk, really. He liked that. He smiled and rolled his eyes. But one day he pulled his math book out, and half of it was eaten because a mouse had slipped in to the teacher's desk. And he was upset because it ate some of his problems and some of the answers. And he pulled all the drawers out, and out came the mouse, and around the room it went, and finally it ended up into the butane fire and roasted right there. This is good right there. And in the 7th and 8th grade, Lester came up smelling like a rose. We had Mr. Brownlee's domain, who was a good teacher, had a room full, super coach. A lot of people. Mr. Brownlee probably got more out of me coaching than any human alive. One time I had the flu and could only play half of a game, and he got 22 points out of me when I was in grade school, half of a game, because he was such a super coach. But he had a little quirk about himself. He always said, "All right." He would begin every morning. He said, "All right, class. We're going to study American history today. All right, let's see. It was in 1876. All right, Charlie, you start off." That's the way he taught. That's okay. Lester Don said to the blackboard. He said, "Let's see how many times he says, 'all right.'" I said, "Well, all right." And so he lifted up his chalk and counted from 8:08 to 11:30. 108 times. And just as he marked the 108th mark, Mr. Browning came up to him and he says, "All right, what are you doing?" I'm counting how many times you say, "All right." "All right, young man, you will write the Constitution of the United States." And he did. You know, he didn't fuss about it. He just sat right down to it and started writing. And he turned it in about 2 days. I said, "Lester Don, what are you going to do if that happens again?" He said, "I'm ready for him. I made a copy. See you." Came out smelling like a rose. All my heroes have been from Oakwood, whether it's Billy Jack Tate putting balls in a hoop, or Leon Wells singing at the graduations. We had heroes. And it's important that we had the right kind of heroes. And I remember one of my heroes was Joe Dean Anson, because he was such a great baseball player. One time I was playing left field. We used to play workup. We played workup, and that way you get to play every position on the field. And a good player like Joe Dean got to bat a lot. It's hard to get Joe Dean Anson out. And the ball field was a little different position than it is today. Back south a ways, kind of in line with this house. And Joe Dean hit one over third base. Skipped by me so quick I couldn't catch it. I followed it all the way to the slide. It went under the slide. I crossed the playground area, and there was butane tanks over here where the food is, buried in the ground. They had a fence around it. He went up over the butane tanks, through the fence, across the playground, down across the slide, over here in the middle of the road in front of Mr. Sutton's yard. Pete Rose wasn't so great. He probably couldn't even make that team. But Johnny Nance at that time was in the 6th grade when he hit that one. And Walt Montgomery, quick Walt. You know, people come into the leadership there in Woodward, and they still talk in different towns about the prowess of Walt Montgomery's basketball days. We have a coach in Woodward who has just finished winning the state championship for 4A girls. That's actually the largest school in Oklahoma. His name is Jimmy Peck. He went to school at Lee and played ball with Walt Montgomery at Weatherford. But they were in a 270 conference title game, and it was in overtime. Jimmy Peck stole the ball. Down, it was tied. Down the court he went. As he went up for the layup, on the other side of Jimmy Peck, where the referee couldn't see, was a little hand that had a hold of Jimmy Peck's uniform by the seat of the breeches. And he missed the layup. And Oakwood won. There was a big fight. And they marked us off their program. But we won that game. And the person I always think about when I come to Oakwood is Aunt Willa Price. That's Bob Price's aunt. The reason I think so much of her is because every time The graduation service got rained out. We got to stay at her house down this way somewhere. She was such a kind of a godmother to everybody in Oakwood. Fact is, one of her nieces comes to my church there in Mutual and has talked to me about Abigail Price. Now, Miss Fruit, I want to thank you for all the things you've done for me. And every time out of life when I was fixing to mess up, and it suddenly got quiet, I could see your face there on the horizon start to move silently from the left to the right. And something inside of me went, that head, and things got lined out. But don't be too hard on us. Be patient with us, because some of us, we ain't through yet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Clyde. We appreciate that and enjoyed it. We now come to the part of our program where we have the introduction and the recognition of classes. I believe we will have the introduction of guests first, and then we will recognize the classes after that. Now, there's one problem that we've had in the past, and that is, especially people in the back part of the room, it is very difficult to hear. So we would ask you this: would you please give your name and the information that you want to give about yourself as loud as possible, because it is a little difficult sometimes to hear. So what we're going to do, Marilyn, we're going to start with you. Well, Betty up here. Betty's behind the camera. We'll start with Betty. We'll go down this table, come back up, just back and forth until we get through. So we'll start right here.
I'm Betty Lance, class of 59.
I'm Marilyn Irving Olson, class of 1951. And my family thought that I should come one more time, and I'm really glad to be here tonight.
Clyde Irving, live in Mutual, class of 1961. And I'd like to say for a special salute to Anita Roberts, Eddie Ainsworth, John Oliver Sneathan, Francis Goodman, and all of our classmates who have gone. Hope I didn't leave anybody out. Class of 61.
Class 40. I'm right, class of 48.
George Roberts, I didn't graduate here, but my wife Helen did, 1934.
1934.
I graduated from college in 1932.
Elvis Oakwood 52. This is my wife Opal. Accompany me.
Joyce Holmes, class of 58.
Gail moves up from class of 58.
Bill Coleman, class of 41. David Morrow, Oklahoma.
Mildred Fleming, Victor Fleming, maybe I should say, from El Reno. Oh, yes, I graduated in 1933.
Gilman Craig Parker, in 34.
Ron Parker, 35.
Ed Johnson, 38. Thomas.
Richard Irving, I live here. My wife Madeline. Son Bruce, daughter-in-law.
What year, Rupert? 1955. Okay.
Class 52. My wife, Donna, we live in Greenwood, south of Greenwood. Harold Black, class 59, we live here in Oakwood.
Ed Black, class of 48. Arizona, Colorado.
Diane Burke, former student, class of 64, Oklahoma City.
Nelson Ainsworth, live in Palmer, class of 39.
Nelson, did you ever drive a school bus? Okay, that's, I didn't know whether it was you or your dad.
Lorraine Wright Ivy was from the class of 39.
Thomas Brother, class of 31.
Virginia Lear Klein, class of 61.
Different name than her, I'm white.
Ron Beckloff, I graduated over Tologa at 76, and this is my wife.
Naoma Baker Ranson, I graduated in 1952.
Sarah Renfro, I was a member of the class of 39, but I did not graduate here. I live in Lubbock, Texas. Bernie Rogers, the class of 39. Ida Marshall Huckins, class of 39. I live in Guyman, this is my husband, Lee.
Daryl J., I live here at Oakwood. This is my wife Evelyn. I graduated in 39.
Robert Shea, class of 34, and I live in El Reno.
Emily Shaw, class of 39, I live in Oakwood.
Roland Shaw, class of 34.
Luella Curtis, I didn't go to school.
Okay, but you're known around the Luella Curtis.
Yeah, all that one.
You did. All right, right here.
And Walker Griffith, 62, and this is my husband Ted.
I'm Santa Green, class 46, that's my wife, Norman, we live in Oakwood.
And it's like Beckloff, and I graduated in 46. I live in Oakwood.
Could you hear her back there? Naoma Baker Backlaw. Okay.
George Beckloff, class of 46.
I'm from Brody Klein, Rice. And I graduated in 1954, and this is my husband Jimmy, we live there.
Fred Faust, 42. I should have graduated in 48, but I left the country.
Evelyn Renault Faust, we live in Fay now, I graduated in 49.
Fred Clyde, class of 59.
Alan Rogers, class of 64.
Kathy Schaefer Gandra, class of 1960, and I live in Oklahoma City, and this is my husband, Louis Gandra.
Gail Walker, class of 64.
My name's Jill Whitney. I'm a former student. I graduated from Sealand in 1944, and this is my husband, Family.
Laura Black, class of 1945, at Camp.
Elvin Layton, former student, Oakwood.
William Dillon, 1937. And this is my wife, Becky.
Mildred Tyler Klein, 1936. This is Harry. He's always tagging along.
Billy, you're gonna have to repeat that. We're still having some laughter there.
Billy Heine, Hinchell, class of 51.
Thank you, Billy.
I'm Rachel Markle. I graduated from Clyde and live in Sealy. This is Bill. Did you hear me, Eddie?
Yes.
Now, all you, I know you can go back now, we can't hear you back here.
I'm Peggy Elmore Peterman, and I live in Thomas, class of 54, and this is my Ernie and my daughter Tina.
Leo Sullins, class of 51.
Your turn, Olitha.
Olitha Sullins, class of 54, we live in Los Angeles.
We remember your maiden name, Olitha Laird. Right.
Nadine Sigmund Carpenter, we live in Hinton.
you do live in Hinton with Nadine, right, Francis? Makes it very convenient, doesn't it?
West of town.
West of town, all right.
Georgia County, class of 32. I live around.
And wasn't your maiden name Brownlee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Been a long time ago.
My name is Sam Kidd, former student, graduated from Thomas in 1963.
You bet.
Well, I'm Maxine Hyde, Billy Mitchell's mother, and I've lived here 50 years.
She put Billy through school here, and that's an accomplishment right there. Okay, right here, Mr. Roy. I know you're not a former student, but you married one, didn't you? Okay, we'll get you to come over. Merle? Okay, you're gonna let that, well, we'll get one of the Roberts here to recognize.
Lisa Roberts Moore, class of 55, and William Edith.
Lisa Robert Moore.
Lita Ryan Hickman, class of 38. I live in Watonga.
Betty Wright, Robert, class of 41. I had too many.
Barney Hitt, we live in Canton, class of 42.
Tina Barney. Jean Barney Hewitt, okay.
I'm Wayne Hood.
Wayne Hewitt, 1940.
Colleen Hitt Baker. This is my stepbrother, and I graduated in 1944.
Now, in Robinette, I attended school here in 46 and 47. This is my wife, Nancy. I live in Canton.
Glad to have you here, Melanie.
Put up with most of you guys for 9 years,
You bet.
especially Clyde Irving. I can remember the first day he came to school. Thought he was the cutest little rascal you ever saw. He had a brand new pair of overalls, new shirt, and new shoes. Boy, he shone like a brand new dollar bill. This is our son-in-law, Kenneth Marbury.
Glad to have you, Kenneth.
LMA Miracle Chain, Medicine Lodge, Kansas, year 43.
Junior Chain, class of 41.
Long Culture, class of 66, and French here.
Come on, Dorothy.
Dorothea Forsher, and class of 36. Maxine Marshall Ford, class of 53. I live in Kansas. Karen Marshall Rubio, class of 1961. I live in Holly Springs.
Jeff Baker, class 41, and I live down the road. More like that.
Mary Lou Ford from Mulberry, my son Kenneth, I met Kenneth Wardrow in Longport. I last attended here in 1958.
Charlene Roberts, Alexander, my husband Charles, and we live in Oklahoma City, and I graduated in 1947.
I'm Bobby Coleman. I live in Bethany, Oklahoma, and I graduated in 1943. James Jones, class of 43.
Okay, now, I didn't catch that. Hose apple, right? Okay. Smart, okay. Glad to have you here.
Bird Carney, Compton, and I didn't finish here. My last year was in 1926. And I went, with my husband Ray, we live in Compton.
Maxine Coleman Stein, graduated in 1938. This is my husband Lester.
and we live in Waukon. You don't know how hard this is.
Well, we'll wait, Edith, and we'll get you up here.
I'm Edith Scott Abel, and I live in Sealing, still yet. Hope for a while longer.
You bet.
And, no, I quit that old stuff. But I garden, I knit, cut that, I crochet.
You keep very busy, don't you, Edith? Don? Bob, I mean, not.
She was my babysitter.
She was your babysitter. Okay. And if I remember right, Edith, your husband was in the store down here in Oakwood.
Well, he works.
Worked in with Eric Hilder, right? Yeah. Brings back a few memories, doesn't it? Okay, now we get to you.
Not very sad.
Okay.
Told me not to, but my last year here in school was in 1919. And I got a few words I'd like to add to these rabbits that you see on the table. I made all of those ears, every one of them. Got hearing aids in them, so
Now, I know who you are, and most people, but not ever. You didn't tell your name.
My name was Faye Harp when I lived here, and I went to school here. My name now is Faye Henry, and I reside at Wakonga in the Sunset Estates.
This is my dad, Merle Roberts. I'm Dorothy Roberts, Royalty, class of 63, and my husband, Eddie.
We're glad to have you.
I'm Elizabeth Springer Tidball. I spent all my years here, but I never did graduate. But if I did graduate, I'd been in the class of 1939. This is my husband, Alfred Tidball. He went to school several years here, back several years.
1920 to 24.
1920 to 1924.
January, the 1st of June to 20, and January to the 1st of June to 24.
Very good. Thank you all for the introduction. Now we're going to group you to classes. All right? Now, I don't think you did what the balloons told you. You get the message now when you look up and Clyde, we need Mrs. Fruit here to get All right, so what we're going to do, we're just going to go up through the years. I'm going to start back at, I think it wasn't probably, when was the first, when did the first student graduate here for 4 years of high school? What year was that? In 1920s? About 26? Okay, now, all of those who attended school here before 1926, stand or raise your hand. Now I realize that hold your hand up or stand. Everybody that attended school here before 1926. That was in school here, all right? We have 1, 2, 3 people here who attended school here. Mr. Tidball, Mrs. Henry, and Mrs. Conlon. All right. Now, we'll start with 1926. We have any 1926 graduates here? 1927. 1928. Clyde, I'm on a roll. 1929. 1930. Now, we're getting into Depression years, people. Certainly, we've got some people that came back. 1931. Okay. We have Edith here and Mr. Crosby, right? 1932. Okay. Out here, Georgia Brandley. 1933. Okay, good. We have one back there. 1934. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that right? 4? Good. 1935. Plenty. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1936. Okay, 1, 2, all right. 1937. 1937, the only one from 37? Okay, 1938. We have 2, 3, Fred, back there, Fred Johnson. Okay. 1939. Yeah, hey, look here. Wow. Do I count 8? 9. Well, actually, we got 10 because Nelson and Darrell make up 1 1/2. And you're in the right place. I tell you what, we want to commend the class of 39 here.
This is our 50th.
Right. And this is your 50th reunion. And by the way, you did have some people here this afternoon that did not stay for the banquet tonight. Could you tell me who they were?
Isabel Bowden, what's her last name? Isabel Bowden and her husband and
Mabel's Stein Lance. So they actually had 11 here if they would have stayed for the, isn't that great, the 50th anniversary of the class of 30. Okay, 1940. Okay, we got 2 here, Forrest, and yes, right here. 1941. Okay, 1 back here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that it? 5? Very good. 1942. We had 1 from 42, okay. 1943. Bob, right? And there's 3 of your class, good. 1944. Pauline. 1945. Carl, okay. 1946. 1, 2, 3, okay. 1947. Okay, we got 1 here. 1948, you bet. 1948. Teddy, you're in.
No.
Oh, we got Tommy. Yeah, Tommy and Teddy. That's almost poetic, isn't it? And they got another one. Who's the other one? Okay, we'll claim you. So you got 3 here. Okay, we said 1948. 1949. Evelyn, okay. 50. 1950. Surely we have somebody here that graduated. Who's on that panel in 50 back there?
No.
Well, looks like someone would have been here. Who's on that panel, Tom?
Walt Montgomery. E.J. Wilson.
Well, J.D. and Walt were, no, Walt didn't, J.D. and E.J. were here last year. When
Leroy Culver.
Leroy, okay. Well, I bet you we have someone here from 1951. We got a bunch of them, almost as 1951. Melvin, you 1951?
Oh, I was looking.
Oh, you were. I thought you joined in the class there. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that the biggest number you've had in 51 for quite a while? I think it is, isn't it, Audrey? Yeah. The Campbells are coming. We'll have a story probably after the banquet tonight about that. 1952. That's Melvin back there. And Dwayne, Shorty. You don't mind me still calling you Shorty, do you? You better not, because I won't ride the school bus with you anymore. Nelma, okay. And Louis Culver. Louis, you just get here. Well, good to see you. 1953. Max, that's you and I. That's 2/5 of the 1953 class is here. Percentage-wise, we're doing well. 1954. Roberta, okay, Oletha, Peggy, 3 of you. Any others? 1955. Okay, Letha. Okay, there's 2 of you and Rupert. 1956. 1956. None. 1957. 58. We got 2 back there. Thank you, Gail. 1959. Fred. Okay, 2 of you. 1960. Kathy, you looks like you're it tonight. 1961. Have 3. Okay, good. 1962. We have 1. 1963. 1, 2. I see 2 people here. 1964. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 1965. 1966. Lon, you're it tonight. 1967. And what was the last was 1968 the last graduating class of Oakwood? Was 69 today? Okay, so 67 was the last class. Okay, 68, the last graduating class. Now 68, who's here from the last graduating class of Oakwood? Okay, thank you very much for grouping yourself as far as classes are concerned. We hope that you have the opportunity to get with your classmates if you haven't already and try to visit a little after the banquet this evening. Now, we have some quick recognitions to make here. We have 2 ladies, as most of you know, that have attended all 36 of the banquets. Come hail, sleet, snow, sickness, flu, family problems, these ladies were here. And that's phenomenal. And most of you know who they are. We're going to recognize those 2 ladies at this time, Clemma Minton and Mildred Clyde. Let's do them. Now, we do recognize the people or persons traveling the longest distance. Quite often that runs into several hundred miles. So, has anyone flown or driven or traveled over 1,000 miles to get here this evening? Marilyn?
Yes.
You have? Anyone else beside Marilyn? Marilyn, you're it?
Yay!
Now, I want to tell you people that we're recognizing, we want you, just as soon as we're through here, to gather together in a group, and you are going to have your picture taken with a newspaper. That's your reward for being recognized. So you 2 ladies, Clement and Mildred and Marilyn, remember this, right as soon as we get through here, we're going to take your picture. All right, the oldest graduate in attendance. Now, what we might do to be, you know, many times the ladies do not like to divulge their age, so we could, I suppose, use graduating classes. Of course, I'm sure some of you ladies probably graduated when you were 10 or 11 years old. So, do we have anyone, let's see, we started out here. What was the first one does any, help me, what was the first graduating class that we recognized this evening? Was it 28? Do we have any older than 1928?
It's former students.
It's just former students then. Okay, it's not graduates. That makes it a different situation. Okay, so let's just say former students, not graduates, because we do have a lot of people that come up here that have not had the opportunity to graduate. Okay, I guess you're going to have to do this by age then, Evelyn. We put ourselves in a corner, we're trapped, we might as well work out of it. Do we have anyone here? Now, when you get 80 years old, you're not old, you're just mature. Do we have anyone that is 80 or older that's here this evening? Okay, we got 2 right here. Former student. Okay. Now, I guess if I was an auctioneer, I could go, hey, 80, give me a 1, give me a 1 and 2. We're not going to do that way. All right, now. Go a little higher. 82. Still got a hand. 83. Still got a hand. 84. Going up. 85. Going up. Like an elevator, isn't it? 86. 87. And we nailed it. Hey, 87 years old. Years young. Thank you so much, Faye. And Edith, you came in a close second, right?
I dropped out of school when my mother died, and I went back to school and graduated when I was 25 years old.
Let me ask the opinion of the audience. Since we have two ladies that's only separated maybe by less than a year, why don't we have both of them in the picture? Is that agreeable? I think that would be nice if we had both of them. All right. Largest class. How many did that class of 39 have?
9.
9. Can anybody beat 9? 9, going once. Going twice.
How many was in their class?
Now, Dwayne said there wasn't 9 in that class. Oh, there were 10 in it? Oh, okay.
How many was in their class?
How many were in your class that graduated? 17 graduated, and 9 of you
That's super.
were here, and 12 were here this afternoon, right? That's great. So we want this class.
That's counting former students, some that got married and didn't graduate with us, but they were our...
Okay, but you have 9 here this evening, so that's the largest class. Okay, we have that. Now, the largest family. We always get in trouble on this one, don't we? Now, you have to either be a former student or a graduate to be the family. We don't, you're here maybe as an in-law, but we cannot count you. You have to be blood relatives. All right, I could probably name some of the families. Okay, do we have any families here that have 3 or more? Okay, we have the Blacks and the Irvings. Who else? The Marshalls. Okay, we're going to start up now. We're going to eliminate you. 4. Who's still in? Everybody in? 5. So the Wrights are still in at 5. Are the Blacks out? Okay, but who's in here? Wrights? How many Wrights are here this evening? Counting mother, a former student, 5. Can anyone beat 5? Okay. Now, we always do things the right way. Okay, let's give those folks a hand. Right. But all of you people now, that's who's taking the picture? Have you got your camera ready? Right? Why don't you people come right up here to this area here, and she's going to get your picture while we're also winding this up. So just come right on up. You won't interfere with my speaking. We do have a decorating committee for this banquet. That decorating committee consisted of Lorraine Ivy, Evelyn Minton, Evelyn Shaw, and Irene Garman. Let's give them a hand for the job well done. On the cleanup committee, Betty has down here anyone we could get. Many people, too numerous to mention, but we do appreciate them. And I'm sure that we do appreciate the fact that the cleanup committee, if you would like to help, please volunteer. Also, I might say that the one officer here this evening is Betty Lance, who's also doing our VCR work up here. And Betty, thank you so much for being here. All right, that takes care of the introduction of recognition of classes, guests, and etc. Does anyone know of anyone we left out? We would not purposely leave anyone out. Okay, a few people now on the recognitions, if you'll come over and get your picture taken. That'll be Mildred, Clemma, Marilyn for traveling the farthest. The oldest graduate, we had 2. That's Edith and Faye. The largest class, which was 39. Get out here, you 39ers. We're going to call you 39ers instead of 49ers. and the largest family, which was the Wrights. We also have some other people we're real quickly going to recognize here. The cashiers, the people who were here at the desk to take your money and to take your checks, Rosie Marshall Kane and Virginia Laird Clyde. We thank you two ladies for doing this for us. Also, the let's give a hand. The registration this evening, Mildred Heine Klein and Dorothy Hutton Foster, we thank you so much for doing this. Let's give them a hand. And of course, the correspondence, and it does take correspondence to let people know about this, Betty Lance here on the stage. Now, just as soon as we get this picture taken, are we ready for a song now, Betty?
We're ready anytime.
We're going to sing that song that we talked about, the people of Oakwood, Dear Hearts and Gentle People. So I'd recommend that you take a little drink of water, kind of limber up your vocal cords. If you sing alto, you can practice on alto notes. If you sing tenor, you can practice on that. All you basses, get ready to come in on the chorus, because and turn right over it. All the words are on the back of your program. Now, when Betty Lance called me up and asked me, she said, you know the words to Dear Hearts and Gentle People? And I started quoting them right on the phone, didn't I? This is the version that Dinah Shore sang. There were two people that had hit songs back in 1949 and 50, Dear Hearts and Gentle People. Dinah Shore had this one, and it starts out, there's a place in Tennessee, and that's where I'd like to be. But Bing Crosby also had a hit record. His started out, there's a place I'd like to go, and it's back in Idaho. Tennessee is closer than Idaho, so we're going to sing the Tennessee version of it. So just as soon as these people are through, and I think we are here, we're all going to join in. Now, you might say, I do not sing. That doesn't matter. I want to see everybody moving your mouth. If you can't sing, you lip sync it with the rest of us. So Betty, I think we could probably start this now. Now, do most of you sing in the key of F? Pop, that stands for fine. The key of F. Okay, here we go. There's a place I'd like to be, and it's back in Tennessee, where your friendly neighbors smile and say hello. It's a pleasure and a treat to be younger down the street. That's why I want the whole wide world to know. I love those dear hearts and gentle people who live in my hometown, because those dear hearts and gentle people so much. All right, if you folks will come back in, we're getting ready to have our business meeting. How are we doing on the time this evening? 7 minutes after 8, that's not bad. I hope you get down here so some of you can visit for a while, because I know that many of you have not seen each other for several years. Our business meeting, first of all, the first part, is the reading of the minutes. This is the minutes of the 35th Annual Oakwood Former Student Banquet. The 35th Oakwood Former Student Banquet was held April the 2nd, 1988, with approximately 200 people attending. Dinner was catered by the End of Maine Watanga. $8 per plate was charged. Welcome was given by Jim Irving, and the guest speaker was Carol Grant, the 1949 through 50 boys and girls basketball coach from Pose, New Mexico. Honored for traveling the longest distance were Mr. and Mrs. Harold Ficus of Las Vegas, Nevada. The oldest graduate attending was Lottie Martin Sober from Fay. Having the largest attendance was the class of 1955. They had 8 members in attendance. The Marshall family received the honor for having the largest family members present who attended Oakwood High School. Gilda Tate was elected the new president, Beryl Stinson vice president, and Betty Lance secretary for the 36th Former Student Banquet to be held in 1989. Clemma Mitten Roberts and Mildred Heine Clyde were recognized for having attended all 35 banquets. All but 2 of the 1950 and 51 Oakwood boys basketball teams were present at this meeting. We have the reading of the minutes. Do I have a motion from the floor to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes, Mr.
It's
President.
been moved by Clyde Irving to approve the minutes. Do we have a second? Seconded by Rollin Shaw. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved as read. Now we come to that time when I'm sure you all are looking forward to elect someone for the new president and vice president and secretary of the Oakwood Former Student Banquet. This is important because it doesn't necessarily require, Betty, that you have to live here in Oakwood either, because much of the work is carried out by people who live here in Oakwood, so they will help you if you're elected. So don't say, well, I can't do it because I don't live here. Not many of us live in Oakwood anymore, unfortunately, but we do have a very close tie here. So at this time, the chair would entertain nominations for president.
Mr. President, I nominate the class of 1959, Fred Clyde.
All right, Fred Clyde's name has been nominated from the class of 59. Do we have other nominations?
I move the nomination cease.
Evelyn Shaw moves that the nomination cease and he be nominated by acclamation. Do I have a second? Seconded by Rollin. Okay, all in favor? Let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, Mr. Clyde, you've been railroaded. Just like that old steam engine, it used to go right by the east side of the school over here. All right, now we have the chore of selecting a vice president. The floor is open for nominations for vice president. Do we have someone nominated?
Mr. President,
Mr. Irving.
for the illustrious 1939 class, I nominate Darrell Boucher.
Darrell Boucher has been nominated from the illustrious 19. Darrell, there's very little to do. The only thing, if the president...
I have a physical problem. I may not be able to make it, so.
Okay. Well, Clyde, are you going to let it off?
Evelyn Shaw, please standing.
No, I've been here 50 years.
You don't have to know.
You can't act that
Are you going to let her, Clyde Irving, are you going to let Evelyn Shaw talk you out of it that
She was my
easy?
Sunday school teacher. Becky Elmore.
All right, Clyde Irving has nominated Peggy Elmore. Do we have any other nominations from the floor? Do I hear a train whistle?
I move the nomination cease.
Evelyn again moves to nominate Rollin. I presume, Rollin, you're going to second it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he'll second it this time. It has been moved and seconded that we elect Peggy by acclamation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Peggy, congratulations. Okay, now we need the secretary. The floor is open for secretary. Well, Bob Coleman, who are you pointing at? Well, let's nominate her then. Would you like to nominate her? Bob Coleman nominates Betty Lance as our secretary. Do we have any other nominations?
We have a lot of people that have never been secretary.
Pardon?
You're sweet. I love you.
Okay, do we have a motion? I have to have a motion. All right, very good. We almost didn't get that cue there. It's been moved. Who seconded? Right, Sam Kidd did. That we nominate Betty by acclamation. All those in favor say aye. Wasn't this easy and fun? Yes. And congratulations, Betty and Peggy. And who was our president? Fred Clyde. Okay. We have a very good set of officers, so thank you so much. All right, is there anything else, Betty, that you know of that needs to be brought up?
I'm sure there is, but I don't know of any.
All right, does anyone from the floor have anything that should be brought up at this business meeting? All right, now, I assume we have had the end of Maine to cater this banquet. Is everyone in favor of continuing this? They do a great job, I think. Is it affirmative that we continue this? All right. Is there any other? Could we get the information on how many were here? Paul Eddie's finding that out. Clyde, as you were telling about some of the experiences that happened at Oakwood High School here, there's one thing that has always stuck out in my, it's a trivial thing, but I don't know why. Do you remember during World War II, you could not buy gum? You couldn't buy bubble gum, right? In 1945 or 46, the word got out that Skinny Science had the first box of bubble gum since 1941 or 42. Now, needless to say, all the students were just trembling with anticipation. The noon bell rang, and it looked like the run of '89 was recreated. Now, Francis, I imagine you probably made that run down there too with everybody else, or were you here? And you probably weren't here yet, but anyway, some of the rest of you did. We got down, you got one stick of bubble gum. Now, can you imagine now having your first stick of Fleer's double bubble gum in almost 5 years? I got mine, and Strawberry Bowden and I were walking back to school, and we were commenting on how good this tasted. I mean, something about the taste of Fleer's bubble gum was just outstanding. Straw said, "Beck, can you still blow a bubble?" I said, "I'll try." I blew a bubble about this big and then popped that gum right out in the sandiest spot right down there by the lodge hall. And there I stood with my poor bubble gum wallowing in sand in that road. The first piece, and I'd only had it in my mouth probably less than 2 minutes, Darrell. I could have cried. I took it and brought it to school, carried it very lovingly in my hand, and I tried to wash the sand out of that. I tried to chew it the rest of the day, but there wasn't any way. Do you think anyone else would sell me their piece of bubble gum? No way. I will never forget that as long as I live, my first piece of bubble gum after World War II. We had to wait about another 2 or 3 weeks before the next supply came in. Believe you me, I was much more careful with that stick. How many's here, Betty? 135 were here in attendance this evening.
One thing I don't know, it might have been mentioned before, but this goes back to an era. I think a custodian and his wife, Tom and Casey Reno, kept the old schoolhouse going for our older generation.
Right. Well, I believe, Ellen, was that your grandfather?
Yeah,
Hey, I remember Mr. Reynolds. Of course, that's what I called him. I didn't call him his first name.
If we wanted some good advice, we'd sneak down into the
All right. Hey, we have never mentioned, I don't think, maybe, the janitors of Oakwood School. Now, Mr. Reynolds? Reynolds, okay, Mr. Reynolds, okay. And his wife Casey. Then after that, was it Walter Lohman? Now, there was a thrill kill. Jimmy Ford. There was a thrill kill, wasn't there?
41.
Okay, who else? Cecil Stratton?
I can remember one before that.
Okay,
I think it was Grandpa Mitchell.
Grandpa Mitchell. What was his first name? Just Grandpa?
You don't remember.
Okay. We have, you know, we've recognized the teachers, we've recognized the superintendents, the principals, but I don't think we've ever recognized the janitors before, and they were definitely a part. They were basically men who loved kids probably as much as equally.
Trudge up the hill at 4 o'clock in the morning, stone fire and boiler.
Right. The old school had a boiler in the basement, and pray tell how that thing ever kept from blowing up. We'll never know, but it never happened, did it? Okay. Very good, Roland. I'm glad you mentioned that. Someone?
How about the cooks?
How about the cooks? You bet. Okay. Mrs. Hort? I'm trying to... Do any of you remember Doris Holbrook? Yes. I can remember when I was in first grade, she used to throw hot rolls to the high school boys as long as they caught them. If they missed one, that was it. Doris said, you miss one, you don't get any more. Now, she was a character. Doris Holbrook was. All right, who are some of the other cooks? Mrs. Hort? Miss Hanson? Mrs. Irving? Mrs. Bill Irving, right? Frances Freeman was one of the first ones. We have some others. Who? Val. Viola Hart. Yes, Doyle's wife. Right? Ollie Powell. Yes, Ollie was one of our cooks. You forget that, don't you? If someone doesn't remind you. Who are some of the others? Opal Swords.
Did Opal Jackson in the cook room?
Pearl Foster, Mrs. Foster, right? Whose wife? Ralph Hales, Edna. All right. Who? Gilda. I don't know. Is Gilda here? I don't believe Gilda's here this evening. Opal Stores, right? Any other cooks that you remember? Mrs. Miracle? Is that was that Clarence's wife? What was her first name? Irene. Irene Miracle. Okay. Isn't it fun to go back and pull those out? Sometimes they're so almost embedded in the back of your mind that it takes a while for it to be impacted to reach you. But those are people that very much have made an impression on our lives. Your mother cooked here and Mrs. Irving. Right. Okay, have we mentioned most of those? The janitors and the cooks. All right. Anything else? I don't know about you, but I have had a delightful time this evening. I hope you have. If there is anything else that we need to bring up at the business meeting, please do so now. Tom, do you know of anything that... Betty, do you have anything else?
Betty?
Yes.
I don't know if it's really business here or not, but I forget a lot of things, so I was wondering if maybe somebody's got an interesting incident or something that happened back in the past. Next year, write it down, maybe we can get them all together.
Would you like to do that next year as a part of the... could we put that possibly in the program, Betty? We could do that. I'm just suggesting this is for you to work out. But what do you think about this? If you have some amusing or interesting episode...
Just something, write it down.
Just so we don't get anyone in trouble. You know, there are probably a few secrets still floating around Oakwood School about who did a certain thing. And we suspect, but we do not know. So we don't want to get anyone in trouble. We might want to leave out some of the Halloween incidents. Since Skinny Signs is not here, I know one year Skinny made the mistake of bragging that they were not going to upset his outdoor privy because he had run a foundation and attached it there too. If my memory serves me correct, it took two 1950 Chevrolet pickups and two log chains, and not all of the house tipped over. Part of it stayed with the foundation, and part of it, but I can't remember. My mind goes blank at that point, and I cannot remember anything else. But that's just something that was the way it was told to me. Right. Thank you so much for coming. Anything else before we visit? Faye Henry has. Did anybody go to school here when Otto Smith? Fern Conklin did, Faye, right there. And also, I've heard my mother talk about it. Would you like to? Right here. Okay.
Someone was asking if they could buy the rabbits. It being Easter tomorrow, somebody might want to buy one and take to your little granddaughter or somebody for Easter. And the funds would go into the former students' fund. So if you would like to buy the little ones are $1. The large ones are $2.50, and I'll pay Betty Martin. So if you want to buy one, pick one up and see her. Balloon attached.
Here's buffet.
Here's buffet Henry. And we do want to thank the residents over at Sunset Estates for making all of these rabbits for us.
One more thing real quickly. I think probably, wouldn't it be a good idea for as many of us as could remember to send the Tates a sympathy card? That would, I think, help this family more than anything else, especially this time. So, what would be the address of Mrs. Tate at Sealing? Does anyone know that? She's the only one there. This Mrs. Robert Tate, Sealing, Oklahoma, or you could send it to Bill or some member of the family. Don't you think that'd be a good idea for us to do that? Okay.